for joining us today for one of our weekly webinars here. My name is Sam, and I'll be your moderator throughout this presentation. In just a second, we're going to be joined by Wesley Boudreaux. Wesley is one of our senior financial advisors, and he is going to be covering several topics related to Social Security benefits. I bet you've been wondering how inflation will increase your benefits, and he'll talk about that, as well as the cost of living adjustment and how to choose the best election date. Before Wesley comes on, I'd like to just quickly mention to you that we are not affiliated nor endorsed whatsoever by any specific company. We are a completely independent group of financial advisors here. Please keep that in mind as you're listening along with Wesley today. Should you have any questions related to anything he is speaking about, I encourage you to use that Q&A box. It's completely anonymous, and I will do my best to either have Wesley address these throughout the presentation. If not, I promise you one of our advisors will be reaching out to you afterward through phone or email. I promise no one ever goes unaddressed. And after the presentation has ended, you will be redirected to our homepage where you can book an appointment with either Wesley himself or one of his colleagues if you wish to speak to them directly about your specific concerns or situations. So take advantage of that. And without further ado, let's get right into the presentation with Wesley Boudreaux.
All right, thank you for the introduction, Samantha. And I think obviously everybody can tell I'm in a slightly different background today. We're in the middle of summer, so we're traveling in the RV. And I'm a little bit sick, so I'm going to keep this one a little bit shorter. If anybody does have any questions, feel free to still put those in the Q&A box, and we'll be sure to follow up with you one-on-one to answer some of those. So like you said, we're going to be talking about Social Security, going through kind of the different age brackets, claiming strategies, things of that nature, talk a little bit about the cost of living adjustment we've seen here recently, and get into all of that for you. So as far as the agenda, like I mentioned, we're going to go through some of the different questions you may need to answer and ask yourself as to when am I going to collect Social Security? How can I figure out the best method? And we'll also talk a little bit about how we can actually help you with that process as well. So as far as getting into the numbers, first and foremost, Social Security is going to give you that option to take it anywhere between age 62 and age 70. For retirement age is going to be anywhere from 60 to 67, depending upon when you were born. We'll get into a chart a little bit later here in the webinar to kind of show you what that looks like and where you fall into that. But there's different options as far as how much you're going to get. You're going to get more if you're elected to defer out to 70, and a lot less if you decide to take it earlier at 62. And so we have to go through those pros and cons for those options as well. As far as why is it an important decision? Because obviously this is going to be something that's going to be lasting for the rest of your life. It's going to be typically a pretty sizable chunk of your income you're looking at. So a lot of different factors can go into there as far as your overall income you're looking for. If you're married, whether you're looking at filing different times, making sure that you're taking care of your spouse if you were to pass earlier. But unfortunately, there's really no one-size-fits-all solution. Everybody's unique and different. Somebody may need the money as soon as possible and take it at 62. Somebody may not need it and they want to defer it out till 70 so they can make sure that their maybe younger spouse is protected, who probably has an option of living longer. So we'll go through some scenarios with that as well. As far as needing it, like I said, a lot of times it's a major chunk of income for many Americans. Generally speaking, about 50% of married couples and about 70% of individuals rely heavily on Social Security as one of the core building blocks as far as their income strategy in retirement. So again, it's something that's very important to look at. And again, it's a guarantee, and it's going to be rising income over the rest of your life because there's that cost of living adjustment associated in there. So we need to, excuse me. So you need to really dig into this and run the numbers to figure out the best option for yourself. And again, like I said, there's not that one size fits all solution. So when should you start receiving benefits? Again, it's going to depend upon, what your calculations are. Full retirement age is going to give you, again, your core calculation. If you take it earlier, you're going to get a reduction. If you take it later, you can get an increase pay for the rest of your life. The amount of your future benefits, you can expect if you're going to work or, if you're going to retire early or delay retirement. There's also taxes associated with Social Security. There's also whether you're going to continue to work or not, as far as what portion of Social Security you're going to be able to get. How long is your retirement going to last? What's longevity like in your family? That's a really important one to determine when's the best time to take Social Security, whether you're a bird in the hand versus two in the bush kind of situation. There's also concerns, we'll talk a little bit later about the solvency of Social Security as well. Um, and then there's other different options as far as how your spouse may be affected. Like I said, generally speaking, we tend to pass away before our wives. So a lot of times we want to make sure we're taking care of them, and especially if there's an age gap in there. So we'll talk a little bit about how that looks and some potential playouts there as well. But if we take a look at this chart, this gives you kind of a rough idea of what I mentioned before about the differences when you take Social Security between full retirement age, 62 and 70. In this chart, this shows you that kind of that window in the middle between 66 and 67, what those options are. And we'll show you kind of where you fall in just a moment. But if you decide to take it and defer it later, you get an 8% bump each year you wait until age 70. Once you hit 70, there's no deferring past that. So it makes sense to go and turn that on. You don't want to miss that window. And the Social Security is not going to come knock on the door and say, hey, start taking Social Security. So be very careful about that if you are deferring. If you decide to take it earlier, you can see those reductions can be as high as 28%. And that would be for the rest of your life. So again, there's a break-even analysis that can be run on this. But generally speaking, most individuals, if you think you're going to kind of make it to, early 80s or so, that's where it makes sense to potentially defer to 70. If you're going to make it to your late 70s, then a lot of times, full retirement age is going to end up paying you more. But if you've got concerns about longevity, that's where taking it early may make sense for you. Or there could be other options if you're looking to, reduce distributions from other assets and things of that nature, or you're looking to invest the growth of that. So how old will I be when I start getting full retirement age? My expectations are they might change this for that bottom one, the 1980 and later for us in order to kind of help. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But generally speaking, either between age 66 and 67, most of you, are going to be in that 66 and change. You can see if you were born before 1954 or earlier, that's going to be the 66. If you're born 1960 and later, that's going to be at 67. So in between there, at 55, 56, 57, 58, and 59, you're looking at 2-month climbs in each of those. So if somebody who was born in 1957 in this case, their full retirement age would be 66 and 6 months. And you'll get all this when you run your Social Security estimate on the Social Security Administration website as well. So we'll go through some different things I mentioned before, talk about the power of delaying. We'll talk about the choices you have, how long will your retirement last, how are the taxation associated with Social Security. And as far as that growth I mentioned before, we saw that kind of real busy chart, but here's an easier one to give you a quick example. Let's assume this individual, 66 was their full retirement age. They're going to get $1,800 a month for the rest of their life. So they had that choice, either take that then, or if they want to take it earlier and they went as low as 62, their contribution, not excuse me, not their contribution, but their payment would be lower at $1,350. Versus if they were to defer all the way to age 70, it's going to be $2,300 or $2,376. So you can see the benefit from waiting 62 all the way to age 70 is about 76% more. So you're going to get a lot higher income for the rest of your life. But again, that's 8 years you haven't gotten income. So you need to confirm, a break-even analysis on there. How long will it take in order to recoup that $129,000 difference in this case? So, God forbid something happened to this person at age 72, then obviously it would have made more sense in order to take it at 62 because they would have had the 10 years of payments versus only 2 years of payments if they took it at 70. So again, very important to factor in your longevity and your family's longevity if you're looking at spousal benefits here. So when longevity comes into play, a lot of people are living longer than they expect. There's reviews right now about 1 in 3 Americans, excuse me, will live to age 90, and 1 in 7 will make it to 95. Excuse me. Still coming over that cold. Summer colds are the worst. So, so there's actually longevity in there. And if you look at a married couple, the aspect of at least one of them making it to their 90s gets even higher in that case as well. As far as how is it going to affect my Social Security when I'm working, some individuals may decide to collect their Social Security because they just don't trust the administration. They want to get it as soon as possible and they're still working. Others may start collecting Social Security post-retirement. Maybe they go back to work or do something else. So if you are working, it is going to affect your benefits. So what's going to happen is under full retirement age, you're going to lose $1 for every $2 you make over $22,320. And the year you turn your full retirement age, whether it be 66 or 66 and change or 67, it's going to be $1 for every $3 over 59,520. So a little bit better there. And once you hit full retirement age, there's no reduction in benefits. Now, this reduction in benefits isn't forever. So what happens is, yes, they reduce the benefits they're paying you, but it goes back into the calculation. So you'll eventually get that back over time. Obviously, it's not going to be as big as getting it up front and in that current year, but it does come back to you and adjust your calculations going forward. Most people we work with, are going to have a couple different sources of income. Obviously, Social Security is going to be one for everybody here. Hopefully you've got your 401k or some savings and retirement accounts that you've set aside as well. Some individuals we work with, companies we work with, have pension plans, so that's also a good option. Those unfortunately have kind of dwindled over the years, and there's not as many there. And some of you may decide to go back and work, either maybe because you need to, or because you want to. You're at home, you get bored, you want to go work at the hardware store or go do something different, just in order to pass the time, but also generate some additional income. As far as taxes, when you start collecting Social Security, it may or may not be taxable. So this really is something that gets into the review process, especially for retirees when we're looking at Roth conversions and how it can kind of kick up your Social Security taxes and stuff. But for somebody that's that's an individual or married, if you're making under 25,000 or under 32,000, you're not paying any taxes on your Social Security. Once you get over that amount, between the 25 and 34 for individuals, and between the 32 and 44 for a married couple, 50% of your Social Security is going to be taxed. So that's not a 50% tax. It just means half your Social Security gets counted towards your income. So it's taxed. And over those numbers, it's 85%. So again, most individuals, if you're joint and you're spending closer to 100 grand or something like that, you're going to be looking at 85% of your Social Security getting taxed. But let's say if somebody was only spending $50,000 and they said, hey, Wesley, I want to convert a Roth, convert to a Roth, and we do that, that could kick up your tax bracket. So now you might go from only paying tax on half your Social Security to 85%. So it's something that needs to come into play in the review. Another option is Medicare taxes associated with that, but that's for another webinar. Here's another example. Kind of give you the joint couple in this example, but let's assume they're both roughly about the same age, and we look at the left-hand side, 62 versus 66 versus 70. You can look at what their different income levels are from Social Security, and it goes from about $2,700 all the way up to $5,200 if they were to defer out to age 70. Now, in this case, the monthly income is about $2,457 more if they were to wait and defer all the way out to age 70. But again, that goes into what's longevity like for this couple. If they think they got a great chance of both making it to their early 80s, maybe 82, 83, 84, then deferring out to 70 may make sense. But even though it may make sense mathematically, they may not care as much about spending that money in their 80s as they would spending it in their 60s or 70s. So it's really important to look at this one-on-one. It's also important to run a full review because this couple may not be the same age. One spouse may be 5 or 6 years younger. So you may have a situation where that spouse might decide to collect, and the one that's a higher income earner may defer till 70 so that that spouse can jump into that if the older one passes away first. So a lot of different things that kind of go in there. And it's really best to give us a call and look at that on a one-on-one basis to see your situation. So in summary, a couple different things as far as, why would I take my Social Security early versus why would I defer it? So on the early side, the simplest answer is you need it. You're living paycheck to paycheck, or you need some income. You're obviously gonna have to take that at 62 if that's the case. Maybe you want to invest the benefits. Maybe you don't necessarily need it, but you say, hey, I want to take this in, and I want to go ahead and invest those so I can build up a nest egg. So that also goes in that cost benefit analysis. That break even I mentioned, 82, 83, 84. That's assuming that you're not investing that. So there could be investment strategies in order to stretch out that longevity as well. And then maybe you want to delay taking funds, as far as to, again, boost up that benefit for yourself or your spouse. And then on the flip side, if you, you may want to delay benefits, so your spouse may want to take them early is another reason to take it early. On the flip side, as far as why should I delay, again, if you've got longevity on your side is an issue. You want a higher monthly income in retirement. Maybe you got other assets in order to supplement that. Maybe you're taking withdrawals from your 401k or an IRA, or maybe you're still working and you're working till 68, 69, 70. So you can defer that. It's not a hard decision at that point. And again, it may be if you were able to file spousal benefits and defer, there's different options in there as well. So again, for everybody, again, like I said, not a one size fits all solution. Just give us a call. We can kind of run through your specific situation. And then it's good. When it comes time to go ahead and collect, you can go ahead and log online to the socialsecurity.gov. You can go ahead and call the Social Security Administration. If you want to venture down to a Social Security Administration office, you can do that as well. But you can apply online or by phone or in person to get that started. And if you have any questions on there, just let us know. We can kind of help walk you through that. Another thing to mention that I didn't put in here is I mentioned a lot of companies we work with do have pension plans. So there's also what's called a Social Security offset in your calculation. So if you've jumped around jobs or haven't been in the same job for your entire career, there could be issues where the pension's calculated incorrectly because they may estimate your Social Security higher than what it is. So any question on that, give us a call as well. We'll be happy to go through it. So one of the biggest questions we get a lot of times is, will Social Security be there? Obviously, I think there's more of a concern for myself than somebody who's near retirement. But to hopefully kind of calm your fears, if we look at this chart, it shows the solvency as far as a surplus, if you would, running out about 2035 or so. If that were the case at that point, there's only about funding for about 80% of the benefits. However, there's a couple different things that they can tweak as far as increasing the amount of income that you're taxed on for Social Security, increasing the Social Security tax for those of us that are working, increase my age, some of those different things, little minor tweaks. You'd be surprised. They've run some of these, and it brings the solvency out to the 2090s. So we're in pretty good shape. Worst case scenario, let's say if this chart kind of comes true and nobody can pass any changes to Social Security, then the worst case would be potentially a means testing and then a reduction of benefits. Whereas let's say if somebody was getting $3,000 a month, it may be that they only get 80 or 85% of that going forward. And I wouldn't put it past them to go in there and say do a means testing where if you get other assets, maybe you get the reduction. But if you don't have other assets, as Social Security is your only income, then you don't get that reduction. So again, we'll see in time how that plays out. As far as the increase in Social Security, we didn't see too many increase until we kind of hit the COVID era. Unfortunately, we had some hyperinflation. They're still kind of dealing through some of that inflation since COVID. But what happens is there is a cost of living adjustment, so you do get a bump up in pay, and it does tend to kind of fall along with the inflation index, the CPI. It's not going to be exactly, on the same level, but you can see in this chart here, the last couple of years, it's kind of gone up in conjunction. So if we look at 2021, it went about 5.9%, 2022, 8.7%, the biggest we've seen in a long time. And then last year, 3.2%. And so you can see that's fairly close to the CPI. They may over under adjust it each year to kind of catch up. So obviously, I think everybody that's collecting Social Security knows they've got that raise, but still probably not enough to buy to continue to buy the bread and milk and things like that, and gas have gone up a little bit more than what that cost of living adjustment has. This will give you kind of a history of it. Going back just to the mid 90s or so, you can see that average is going to be about 2.5%. But we've obviously the last couple of years been above that average, kind of between 2008 and COVID, we were below that average in some cases. So you can kind of see that it's going to jump around from year to year, but just be assured that if inflation's still there, you'll be seeing a cost of living adjustment to help you out a little bit. But ultimately, I've talked about running a Social Security analysis. The bigger question is also running a financial plan. Right now, about 3/4 of Americans over 50 don't have a written plan. The best way to kind of tie all this together with your 401k, your other assets, and your income strategies is to run a cash flow analysis. If you give us a call, we can go ahead and spend about 10-15 minutes gathering some information from you. Give us about a week to put a detailed plan together to show you exactly where you stand. And once we know that, that can help also lead into, okay, when is the best time for me to claim Social Security? Is it at full retirement age of 66 and 6 months? Is it 70? Or is it that I'm going to claim at 68, my spouse is going to claim at 64? There's a lot of different variables to look at in there, and we can go through that process with you one-on-one. And then ultimately, just kind of a recap of who the retirement group is. We are an independent financial advisory firm that's been working with corporate employees for a little bit over 30 years or so. One of the things that sets us apart is a lot of our advisors will focus on working with just a select few companies. So we've got a detailed understanding of your benefits plans, whether it be the pension, the 401k, healthcare, retiree, medical benefits, things like that. We'll be happy to kind of walk you through and help you answer some of those questions. We do have offices throughout the country, so rest assured if you need to sit down with somebody face to face, we can accommodate that. Or obviously we can have phone conversations or web meetings, whatever your preferred communication method is. And then as far as that cash flow analysis, that is something complimentary we mentioned. Go ahead and take us up on that, and we'll be happy to review that with you. And I'm going to leave this up here for a little bit. Like I mentioned, I'm going to, because of the sickness, I'm going to hold for any questions. We'll actually, we'll hold off on any questions. We'll follow up with you one-on-one on those via email or phone call. But I'll keep this up here for just a moment. There's a couple QR codes if you want to get into our calendars to schedule a meeting with myself or the other retirement group advisors, or if you want to get to our LinkedIn page to get more specific information from us or specific information on your company plan as well. You can always reach us at info@theretirementgroup.com. And you can also call us at 800-900-5867. And then ultimately, just a reminder, even though we do work with a lot of different Fortune 500 companies, that does not mean we are endorsed by your company or employed by them. But again, if you have any questions, just feel free to give us a call. We'll be happy to dig into those company plans for you as well. I want to thank everybody and hope you have a great day and hope you enjoy your summer.